Much of an inspiration your father was to you and how close you guys were. How much did that play a role in the tough moments today?
I would say he helped me the most win my match today, and it's crazy. It's his birthday today. I always play for him, and I want to win today on this special day. And when I won the match, like I laid down on the court, started tearing up, and just like, oh my goodness, like I just did it, and it's so special. Yeah,
it's magic.
Must be proud of you.
Happy birthday to a father who never got to see this moment, but somehow it feels like he did. Zachary Svajda walked onto the clay courts of Roland Garros and did something nobody expected. Not the analysts, not the bookmakers, not even most tennis fans who probably had to Google his name before this tournament began. A world number 85, a player who had never won a single main draw match at a Grand Slam before stepping foot in Paris this year. And now, he's in the fourth round of Roland Garros. Let that sink in for a second. But this story isn't just about tennis. It never really was. Because before we talk about the scorelines, before we talk about the upsets, before we talk about what this means for American tennis, we need to talk about Tom Svajda, a man who raised a son with a racket in his hand and a dream in his heart. A man who spent years driving to tournaments, watching matches, believing in something that the rest of the world was still making up its mind about. A man who passed away in October of last year after battling cancer. And a man whose 61st birthday happened to fall on the exact same day his son walked off the court at Roland Garros, having beaten a seeded player in 5 sets. You cannot write this stuff. Svajda beat Francisco Cerundolo, the 25th seed, 6-3, 6-4, 3-6, 4-6, 6-3 in just over 3 hours. 3 hours on the red clay in Paris, pushing through when the momentum shifted, pushing through when Cerundolo found his rhythm, pushing through in a 5th set where the pressure alone would have broken most players at this level. It didn't break Zachary Svajda. Not today. Not on his father's birthday. Now here's what makes this tournament run so remarkable when you look at the full picture. Before this year, Svajda had never played a main draw match at Roland Garros. Not one. He came in as a wild card, as someone who exists on the fringes of the top 100, as the kind of player who often gets drawn against a seeded opponent in round 1 and quietly disappears from the draw before most people even notice he was there. Instead, he beat Alexei Popyrin in the first round. He beat Adam Walton in the second round. And by the time he stepped onto the court against Cerundolo, he had already achieved the best Grand Slam result of his entire career. He was already in uncharted territory, and rather than play with nerves, rather than tighten up under the weight of the moment, he went out and made it even better. 3 rounds, 3 wins, a 4th round appearance at a Grand Slam for the very first time. And every single step of the way, he carried something with him that no ranking system can measure. After the win, Svajda posted on Instagram. He talked about his father. He acknowledged what the date meant. And the response from the tennis world was immediate. Fans, fellow players, people who had never heard his name a week ago, all taking a moment to recognize what this run represented beyond the numbers and the statistics. But then something else happened that nobody quite expected. Novak Djokovic, who had exited Roland Garros in the 3rd round after losing to Joao Fonseca, his earliest exit from this tournament since 2009, reached out to Svajda directly. Think about that for a moment. One of the greatest players in the history of the sport, someone processing his own disappointing early exit from a tournament he has dominated for years, took time to send a message to a world number 85 following a victory in the 3rd round. Djokovic has won this tournament 3 times. He has been through every imaginable high and low that professional tennis offers. And after watching this young American navigate grief and pressure and expectations on one of the sport's biggest stages, he felt compelled to reach out. That says something about Djokovic that sometimes gets lost in the noise of the GOAT debate and the rivalries and the controversy that has followed him throughout his career. The man watches. The man pays attention. And when a story moves him, he responds to it. He is still keeping track of everything happening at Roland Garros even after his own tournament ended, still invested in the sport, still connected to the moments that make it worth watching. And this is absolutely one of those moments. There's something about tennis that strips everything back to its raw essentials. You were alone out there. No teammates to share the weight. No coach whispering instructions in your ear during the point. Just you and the ball and the court and everything you've been through to get to this moment. Every early morning, every long flight, every loss that made you question whether any of it was worth it. Every conversation with your father about what the future might look like if you just kept believing. Svajda is 23 years old. He turned professional in 2020. His ranking has fluctuated, his results have been inconsistent, and by the cold logic of professional tennis, he is not a player who is supposed to be making deep runs at Grand Slams right now. The sport is ruthless in the way it defines success and failure, and the margins between a career that breaks through and one that fades quietly are often impossibly small. But sport, at its best, has never cared about what was supposed to happen. It cares about what actually happens. And what actually happened at Roland Garros on what would have been Tom Svajda's 61st birthday is that his son stood on one of the most famous clay courts in the world and beat a seeded player in 5 sets to reach the 4th round of a Grand Slam for the first time in his life. You can feel the weight of that. You can feel the complicated mixture of pride and grief and disbelief and joy that must exist in a moment like that. Winning when you have nothing to lose is one thing. Winning when you're carrying loss with you, real, recent, irreversible loss, is something else entirely. It requires a kind of inner strength that doesn't show up in any stats column. What happens next for Svajda at Roland Garros remains to be seen. The draw gets harder from here. The opponents get better. The pressure gets heavier. But none of that changes what has already happened, and none of it diminishes what this tournament has already given him. He came to Paris as a player most people overlooked. He leaves this stage, however far it goes, as someone the tennis world will not forget in a hurry. And somewhere in all of this, in the birthday and the breakthrough and the message from a legend who was paying attention, there is a story that goes far beyond a scoreline. Some wins are about ranking points. Some wins are about prize money. Some wins are about proving doubters wrong or climbing up a list. And then there are wins like this one, the kind that means something that cannot be quantified, that exist on a level where sport and real life meet and briefly become the same thing. Zachary Svajda didn't just win a tennis match on the 29th of May at Roland Garros. He gave his father the greatest birthday tribute imaginable.